You mean to tell me, ma'am, the clerk said scornfully, that you want to carry this young man to America under that name? Watcha, what wrong with the name? It's a girl name. So the last time we left off, Sedella had absconded, taken herself on a visitor visa to America, found a willing participant in Mr. Buka, urged him to get married, of which they did, and now she's excited. Same time, Bob is wandering around Trenchtown, being treated like a little slave boy by Taddy and Cicelyne, and him find him way over to the studio. But before I jump into that, I said something yesterday or in the last video that I wanted to back up. I don't know me already by now. I wanted to give the source of what I was talking about as it relates to the backdrop of Sedella thought process and women from that time, that you know what, if the man is not doing what he needs to do financially, economically, so that the woman can nurture the child, then the woman oftentimes in that time and before had to make a difficult decision as to whether or not she's going to go out and hunt and bring it back herself and nurture the child, and in doing so a lot of things fall through the cracks. So I made a reference yesterday, and this one is coming from More Than Chattel. It's a book about Black women and slavery in the Americas. So when I'm talking, I'm not just talk for talk. You understand? So in this book, it makes a reference to this book, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. And I read this book on the channel as well. But in short, it says here, the psychological impact of deserting them was great too, meaning children. So let me back up a little bit. Slave mothers, regardless of age, were less likely to run away than childless women because they were unwilling to leave their youngsters behind. That's what I said yesterday, that men had a higher instance of running away, and women who did not have children. Yesterday, I didn't say women who do not have children, but it was women who did not have children, because the women with the children, they had to consider what's going to become of their child, right? So it goes on to say the psychological impact of deserting them was too great, aka Bob, aka Sedella, aka our grandparents, aka the whole story of the diaspora. It says the psychological impact of deserting them was too great. It's great on the mother. It's great on the child. It's great on the community who has to stay back. It's the same thing that was happening, is happening. This was during slavery, and we're talking about post-slavery, right? It says here, but Sadella was born in 1926, so she wasn't born too late after this experience, right? It says here, additionally, there were community and family pressures to consider. You're gonna leave your baby? Nobody respects a mother who forsakes her children. Ex Marley Hornibiller told her granddaughter, Harriet Jacobs, who considered running away with her two children. So this is the real story of a woman who was enslaved. This story right here, I read it on the channel. It's everything. That story gives so much information in relation to the experience of a young girl who was half white. If I'm not mistaken, she was mixed and she was abused. But I don't want to go into that right now. But so no one would respect that. It goes on to say, Jacobs believed that if she ran away, her owner would grow tired of the children and sell them. And then the grandmother says, stand by your own children, the old woman advised. Suffer with them until death. So the thought of a mother leaving her child to go and find better, even though she's in a precarious situation, even though she possibly wouldn't be able to feed him, even though she was being abused by Toddy, even though she tried, and I'm back to Sedella now, even though she tried a million gazillion ways to sustain herself in Jamaica, from igloring to trying to do a restaurant, to working in a bar, to cleaning people's homes. Like, she did it all and couldn't find her way. And she finally resolved that she's gonna go towards somewhere else. And in doing so, her children, the psychological effects, we can see that it affected the children. So let's go ahead now with that backdrop and jump into Sedella. All right, now, so now that we are historically sourced up, okay, to possibly look at the mindset of our grandparents, great grandparents, and what they were experiencing, the men not finding in gainful employment, the woman, feeling like their back is against the wall, the picnic at my bad for hungry. Let's go ahead and pick it up. Mr. Booker, being a kind, loving, and generous heart, had agreed to sponsor me, Nesta, and Pearl to come to America. So she was up forthright, right? She was forthright. Look, Mr. Booker, I got some children and I'm going to need you to sponsor them too, okay? And I returned to Jamaica to re enter the United States as a landed immigrant with a green card. This is important to note. So she says she married in October of 63. That's what she told us the last time, right? That she married in October of 63. Yep, Monday 14th, October 1963. And that, you know what I want to do? I just want to cross reference. She said it was a Monday. There's simple things we could do. People like, oh, Sadella, I tell lie. 1 second. Let me simply pull this up to see if that was a Monday. I'm gonna go ahead and put it right here. So these are the little small things that we can see to see the continuity of someone's story. If I lie, them I tell. October the 14th, 1963 was indeed a Monday. So let's continue. It's small, but it a put something in a Sedella pan. Okay. It says here, so she went back home. So Bob would have seen his mother in 1963. She left in 62 winter, and in a year's time, thereabouts, she came back home. It says, I visited my family in 9 Miles and Nesta in Trenchtown. I visited my daughter Pearl, who was now nearly 2 years old and still under Enid's care. And Enid is her sister. Imagine Pearl don't see her mother from she 11 months old. She don't see her abusive father, Taddy, because she's back in 9 Miles. And it's confusing. Again, the psychological effects. And in some cases, physical as well. It says, in 9 Miles, everyone was joyful to see me looking so prosperous, married, and getting along so well in America. And I was glad to visit the old haunts of my childhood and see Papa again, as well as my sisters, brothers, and umpteen nieces and nephews who had come in the world since I had been away from 9 Miles in Kingston and Delaware. Because she did leave. She left a little before Mr. Novel died. Okay. So she had left a good look of time now. Nesta was a Rasta, but he did not look ferocious and wicked. His hair was long, but it had not become a lion's mane or tangled braids. Although he was taken up deeply in his music when I told him that Mr. Booker would sponsor him too, he was quite keen on getting his papers, even though he said he wasn't ready to leave Jamaica just yet. So we went to the government office to get him a passport and to begin the long process of gaining him an entry visa to the US. So Sadella, she went out. It took longer than she thought. She found somebody willing. She was truthful. Now she's getting papers filed. And he's like, I don't know if I really want to go, but just in case, I can't have some paperwork. Okay. That day, something happened that changed the name Nesta would be known by to the world. He had filled out the application for a passport and waited for hours to see a clerk who would complete the necessary paperwork. Finally, we inched our way forward in the line in the grubby government office and found ourselves sitting beside the desk of the fussy clerk, who was poring over the papers. Nesta, the clerk suddenly snorted, reading the application. What kind of name is that? How you mean what kind of name? I asked. Is him natural name given by him father? Novel makes a reappearance. And that's the same response that City had when he said, call him Nesta. City was like, Nesta? That's the same response his mother had. You mean to tell me, ma'am, the clerk said scornfully, that you want to carry this young man to America under that name? Watch out. What wrong with the name? It's a girl name. And again, I looked that up on the channel. It's a short. It is a girl's name. And it was a popular name at the time. I don't know what was going on with Norval, but it was a popular name at the time. It wasn't like just one Nesta. It was plenty Nestas at that time in Jamaica. Is what wrong with it? You can't carry this grown man to America under a girl name, then we laugh after him. Nesta shuffled his foot and said nothing. So what we should do then? Hey, look, Yo, I can't with City. City's like, listen, I don't really got no time for all of this. I asked despairingly, for I knew that if you got on the wrong side of a clerk in Jamaican government office, he would give you a warm time and humbug up your business. She loves it, humbug up your business. Where middle name? The clerk asked, shuffling the papers as if he'd suddenly had an inspiration. Robert. Now see, there is a good name for a man. Bob, solid like a rock. Like them name of a man should be. None of this Nesta, Lester, Chester foolishness. So after Solera just met the clerk change Bob's name. Here I know no. If you think that's better, I mumbled lamely. I don't have to think. I know that's better, he announced confidently, completing the paperwork in a nice clerical hand with pretty curlious and boasty squiggles. Bam, bam, bam! He went with the official stamp on the papers, and Nesta Robert Marley stood and shuffled away to wait in the next line. His name having been changed by an unknown clerk to what the world would know him as to the end of his life, Bob Marley. And like I was saying before, a name changes your energy. It changes your vibration. We see it biblically where Abram is turned to Abraham, Sarai is turned to Sarah, Jacob is turned to Israel. You see it when people even have an awakening. Sometimes they change their name because that energy, how people call you, how people refer to you, it has a spiritual effect, right? Because words sound power, right? So in this situation, he had people before him with this name, Robert Marley, the uncle who passed before he was born, his cousin, who's considerably older than him, Robert Cecile, his grandfather Albert, who came to America and used the name Robert. Now, I don't know what's going on with the Roberts and the Marleys combined, but whatever it is, when that clerk changed his name, he steps into it, and let you see his mother says the world is going to know him by this name, but it also comes with other things as well. Like, make no mistake, he's getting things from all aspects, as we all do. But to me, observing from where I'm sitting, this kind of changed his track. It jumped the train onto another track, and he's moving forward. It says, but Nesta wasn't ready to leave Jamaica quite yet. He thought he was on the verge of breaking out with his music. His prospects seemed plentiful and promising, so I left without him. So no, some people, parents, and I've heard, and it's also in my family line, that some people leave and they don't come back. We see in Sedella's case, she had no intention to leave and not come back. It was difficult during the time that she left, but she intended to come back. But at this juncture, she's saying he doesn't want to come with her. But I had laid the groundwork to get him and Pearl to America with me. Shortly afterwards, Pearl joined me, being brought in by a girl I knew named Jenny. And Nesta continues to struggle to make his name in Jamaican music. So by this time, he must be like, I ain't trying to go nowhere. Whenever you're ready, I told him, just write and tell me, and I'll send you a ticket. So even though he was suffering, he had a vision, but he also had a way out, which many people did not have, right? Mr. Booker and I by now set up our household, and we're getting along lovely as man and wife. Go Sedella. Nessa and I continued to correspond. One evening, I came home to find in our mailbox a notice of attempted delivery of a registered letter. Mr. Bookbook took me down to the post office to get it. The letter was from Nesta and contained a new US $10 bill. And where Nesta get money from? And where Nesta get money from? Nesta send him mother $10. In the letter, Nesta tried to explain how singing his music made him feel. He said that when he sang, he felt a spirit moving him just as it moved me in church, with the same joy and lightness in his soul. He wrote that the music business in Jamaica was still hard, but said that lately he'd gotten a little money and he wanted to put some into my hands, even though he knew it wasn't much. But Nesta's still young. So that I'm root for you, but remember when you just said Taddy took the responsibility of feeding Nesta, but you did a work of foreign and you are the mother and him not reached nowhere yet. So you kind of, I understand where he's coming from, but you kind of was supposed to be making sure that he was all right until he's ready to come, because he's still very much young. Like, where is he living? That's just my thoughts, but we'll continue. That one day, The whole way home, I was crying over the letter. He's a good boy, Mr. Booker said comfortedly, patting me on the hands between driving. He's trying his best. He's a good boy. Boy, indeed. Him a no man. Him no reach nowhere yet. You know how hard it is to get American money nowadays in Jamaica, I wept. Exactly why you should be sending him money. Later, when Nesta became a big star, he would put thousands into my hands. He would buy me 4 houses, a shop in Delaware, spend thousands to give me the roof I now have over my head. But no amount of money he ever gave me, no matter how much, ever touched me as much as that lowly $10 bill. That one day, that one day never settle. You know when they eat too fast and the food not settle, that whole $10 situation not settle with me. It not settle, but I'm going to continue. Some months later, Nesta wrote again to say that he'd met a nice girl named Rita and that she had become pregnant for him and that if she had his baby, he intended to marry her. Pause. We're going to pause and we are now going to jump into the same time period, but back to cross referencing when Rita meets Bob. We're going to take a little quick break. Commercial Island Twist. Shout out to everybody who's reading the book. Let me know your thoughts on it thus far. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into when Rita met Bob. Island Twist follows Jackie Brown, a young girl who finds herself head over heels for the new island boy at school in fresh outer yard, and Jackie has the fever. But as she navigates the ups and downs of her new crush, things quickly spiral out of control when her not so secret admirer becomes determined to sabotage her relationship. So check out the new novel Island Twist over on Amazon today. Now back to the story. So I think this is important because the mother is in America and she is getting only through letter correspondences the understanding of what's happening. And so Bob is writing her, and he, according to her, he writes her that he met a girl named Rita. So this is the situation when Rita meets Bob. This is why she's poor bobbing all day long because Bob mother gone, like we said before, everybody gone. She goes on to say, this is Rita now. This is when she snuck him into the house and the duppy jumped on her and all that. It was now clear to everyone, even Auntie, that Bob and I were serious about each other. So understand why now he's writing about her, right? I had started really thinking about him, trying to decide whether this guy could be the man for me. Remember, she already had a jubby. She already had a love. Bob sang with Jim way in between and push out the baby father for Sharon and tell her to stop correspond. Now she's trying to decide whether or not this is going to be her guy. I didn't want to make another mistake, and that's what she was talking about. Besides, Bob was a good example, a good role model, as we'd say today. What I liked to begin with was that he approached me with a sense of consciousness about me as a whole person. I was very impressed by that. Here is one who really has a different direction, I thought. It wasn't all about, hey, I can't with Rita. Sometimes Rita is very like, she's very vague, and then sometimes she's very forward. I'm like, Rita, so please excuse this one. She's saying that Bob is not like the young youth them to say, hey, can him feel her up? Or can him go there with her? I'm just gonna the usual teenage lust. It was something a little bit more, maybe because he was a country boy. But he had reservations and respect about that aspect of life. After 6 or 7, fine, but during the day, you could see he was about something else. Let's either make music or talk about the future. I really felt that this boyfriend of mine was different from other guys I'd met and that I might be able to learn something from him. How much other guy you did meet, Rita? I don't understand, but okay. That had to be good for me, I thought, and for Sharon too, because even though Auntie was in charge, once you have a baby, you're a woman. Whether you're 12 or 20, where you get that from, Rita? No, you're a little girl where did have a baby. I knew that in the long run, Sharon was my responsibility, even though Bob was so adaptable to her. He really did love her, really saw her through the eyes of one who wanted to see. And even though I was making a little money at Coxon's once and was able to contribute at home, I couldn't contribute very much. Bob was aware of that, and he began to contribute things too. He was always making sure that Sharon and I had what he thought was best for us. And when we started to date, he'd introduce me to his friend Georgie. Anything you want, Bob said. Anything you need, just ask Georgie. If I'm not here, here is Georgie till I come. Georgie was an older man, so him never did I worry about Georgie because Georgie didn't want. Like many of Bob's friends, because he was looking for that guidance, right? Older or not, they were his pals though, because Bob was inclined that way. I wouldn't say he was above his time or above his age, but his level was always more mature. I'm grown grandfather. He would often bring a bundle of okra or some callaloo or some oranges from his friend Vincent Ford or Tata. It was in Tata's kitchen that Bob ended up living, which quieted Auntie for a while. Because remember, he asked him about Coxon, he's in the back. And now, I think in a video, if I'm not mistaken, or if they turned the yard into a memorial, I know I saw it somewhere, they were showing the kitchen that he lived in. It says here, but it should come as no surprise that in Tata's kitchen, Bob and she first made love. Why? What that did I go and run a Tata kitchen? Uno was tearing it up. Uno was putting wood in at the fire. Mm-mm. His Fred Braga would bring me fresh cow's milk in the mornings, always with a cheerful, everything all right? And I would say, and oh, I really meant it. Yeah, man, everything cool. Why, that was the honeymoon stage. I often think about men like Tata, Braga, and Georgie, who became my friends too. Men who I knew Bob would look out for. Men who always looked out for Bob. Tata was credited as the co-writer of No Woman No Cry, which Bob did to honor such a close friend, another father figure like Coxon. Sometimes Tata would come up to see us and then walk home with Bob, and I'll feel better that there were the two of them turning back into the dangerous streets of Trenchtown in the dark hours of the night. As for Georgie, who is in that very song, so Georgie would make the firelight. He is still around and still my friend. I have vivid memories of times when Georgie did indeed make the firelight, and it was true that it would burn through the night. But Bob always wrote about real things, about his feelings. They would be playing guitar and all of us singing and drinking cornmeal porridge, of which I share with you. Me then they drink that they call me porridge. Me not like call me porridge. Sorry. Or sharing whatever was cooked for the day. All the rest of that song turned out to be true too. And because Bob was so real, so true in himself, I feel that I need to insist on that here. Auntie always says, don't tell no stories, by which she meant lies. So this is not a story. This is my life. You hear what Rita said? Rita said, this is not a story. This is our life. The story. She said she can't tell lie. A true. I'm going to jump down. Okay. So this is the beginning of which she's talking about when Sadella says that he writes her. This is the situation that's going on back a yard. Okay. We are going to continue on next time because there's a little difference between the reason why Bob finally agreed to go. Rita says they got married on impulse. His mother says he finally says that he was ready to go. So maybe his mother did send for him only after you said you wanted to go. We don't know. We're going to check that out in the next episode. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the video. You don't know. Big up on yourself, everybody who has just joined the channel. Welcome.